think we finally made it to start time for what it's worth.
What's that?
I think we finally killed enough time for what it's worth.
Cool. Just giving folks a minute. Just walk out. All right, so thanks for having me speak. It's always good to be back here in Ghent. I've been using Puppet since 2007, where I was an early customer. I became an early employee in 2010. 2013, I started my own consulting company around these types of like tooling. A few years ago, I started managing SREs at Vox. I'm a member of Vox Populi. Had the honor of being recognized as a Puppet champion. But enough about me. Who manages immutable systems where they deploy and then never make changes? Yeah? All right. See, like after my talk from like 2 years ago, like somebody in the community is doing it besides me. That's cool. All right, so if not, you need to like orchestrate, I'm sure, your existing systems. So everyone else here has long-lived immutable systems that they manage. Yep. So what is orchestration? It's the ability to target systems and then take actions. Choria does this through a message bus, specifically NATs. Anyone familiar with message buses? Like our message queues, MQ, active MQ, SQS, like things like that. For those that didn't raise their hand, who's wearing glasses? Raise your hand. Yeah? All right, so my voice is the message on the bus to which you're subscribed, if you're listening, and your response was based on the filtered match. If you were wearing some, like wearing glasses, you responded. And that's the idea behind a message bus. So we're talking about Choria today, next generation of M-collective, secure, massively scalable, well-built approach that includes RBAC and AAA, made by Ari in the back, thank you. Integrates with Puppet and Puppet DSL, and as we just learned, it's also being self-installed, so that's cool. The plugins can be written in any language. Who uses Choria today? Okay. Who has used maybe M-collective in the past? Okay. How about Bolt? Ansible? Yeah. How about Temporal? Parallel SSH? Okay. All right. So, this talk isn't going to be on Choria itself, but this is more how we use it in enterprise settings and the things I put around it to make it work in that type of environment.
If there's interest, I'll do a demo at the community day, so if you find it interesting, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the ability to target systems, but with those tools, you have to have an inventory list. And Bolt has dynamic lists, but there's still a bit of configuration. This means it's up to you to figure out which systems that you should target and collect host names, IPs. Since we use a message bus, this means that we can let the nodes figure out if they're in scope. And we can do this based on like Puppet classes or on facts. So this lets you do things like say, I want to run this automation on all systems in depth that are also MySQL systems and in the finance cluster. Oh, and I only want the ones tagged as Canary, right? We can keep doing that and be specific. And I don't have to know the inventory ahead of time, right? I've got systems coming in and out of existence. I don't have to know and create some list. Who uses Bolt again? If you're using Bolt without Choria, you're doing it the hard way. Like, absolutely. Do yourself a favor, visit Choria.io. The documentation is outstanding and very quick to get going. And there's even a video from Ari here about how to integrate with Bolt.
We hope, sorry to interrupt, but we hope as part of the Vox work that there will be a closer interaction that Vault will essentially be able to use Choria as a transport, so that what you know of Vault will just start using Vault.
Is that theoretically similar to how it can use the PXP transport
Yeah.
today?
Yeah. PHP transport was actually working with someone who was really on Choria.
Yeah.
It's very
If-
similar.
If you like Bolt and you like what it gives you, it's very much lacking a true dynamic inventory, which is the message bus and the functionality that Choria gives you. So now that we can target things, we can make them take action. So this is triggered by the message queue, so no need to SSH in or open ports. I'm not going to go into depth here, but all the bits that you would probably normally want to manage have already been written, and it's easy to add your own. And so that's what Choria is and does, and I'm going to transition to how we would use it. So Box is an intelligent content management platform. We manage your data and cater to different verticals through our ability to create processes around handling documents. Basically, we support large enterprise customers. Because of this, we have a lot of regulatory concerns for compliance. We recently received FedRAMP High, which is extremely difficult and for which we are proud. Choria is part of that with our evidence gathering.
I know quite a few FedRAMP qualified people using Choria.
Oh yeah, and to go from the FedRAMP moderate to where we were and to high was yeah.
Those are all separate certifications?
Yeah.
And all Choria is validated on all of them, or almost all of them?
It helps us gather data so that we can provide evidence to the auditors. Yeah. But this is just to give you an idea of what we deal with, and that's why we put some safeguards around Choria. Yeah.
Amazing slide.
We don't operate our systems from our laptops. Laptops are meant to generate code. It's what you type on. You can write code there, but then robots should turn that into artifacts, deploy those artifacts, and interact with your systems. Again, laptops are for typing. We also use them to press buttons for automation. If you take nothing else away from this talk, stop using your laptop to administer systems, and think about how you can automate that. If your first thought is how to automate commands over SSH, come talk to me after this. You already use config management for a stateful system, and so think about your orchestration tooling for managing that after the fact. Rerunning Puppet as a way to do orchestration is not effective. So no laptops. As an enterprise company with all those regulatory requirements, we do a simple thing in that we state all changes are peer reviewed. How do you provide peer review when you SSH in and run commands? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We want to know how someone attempted to fix something by knowing who's doing what and when, but also why they are doing it. What were the results? Can the results be viewed by other people trying to help without you opening up team hooks? Can you prove what changes occurred? I have to. Imagine an issue where you take lots of actions. How would you share that? You gonna save your scrollback buffer? I've seen people logging all shell output from a bastion and people teeing that, and that's gross. Yeah, James.
Is it bad to have a log bash as your shell? Would that count? Because I've seen companies do that. So when people log in, they have a logging version of bash.
If that's the way that you fix issues with your operations team, I would say that's not ideal. The sequence we do things in can be very important, right? So what happens when multiple people respond?
Race conditions.
Oh,
Exactly what you would expect.
Yeah. So, do you know what actions are being taken? Can you see them queued up? Are you all jumping on some call and then asking like what's happening? So now your mean time to resolution things? Yeah. Or worse yet, you both like jump in and make the problem worse? All right. We monitor and alert for SSH outside of development environments. If you're SSHing in, this is a sign that we have a problem or our observability tooling is not adequate for the situation. But yes, when you SSH in, that's an alert. Yeah. Do people think this is crazy?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
It's,
I think it's difficult to achieve, crazy difficult
Yeah.
even, but
It's a great ideal world.
I wish I was there.
it's
Yeah.
not crazy so much as a pipe dream.
It's my reality. You can be there.
I'll do one more on some machines I used to maintain. We let people SSH in, but if they SSH'd in, we marked that machine as dirty, and in 24 hours it was re-provisioned from scratch.
Yeah, we're looking at doing that for certain workloads. There's things we can't like are like databases and things that it doesn't work well for. We do that for containers now, and are definitely looking at, based on the type of system, how could we implement that. Yep. So we have a lot of success interacting with our old friend here, Jenkins. Jenkins can act as cron to let you schedule jobs. We do this for compliance, where we need to pull fact data and then pass that on to an API to generate tickets. Jenkins also can give you a big button to press for when you need to do things in an ad hoc manner. We also use Choria in a non-ad hoc manner to do specific automations, but there's times where we just need to press a button and make something happen. So like one of these is like tooling for security to retrieve a specific file from a system, or we need to take a bunch of debugging that's beyond what you would get from observability tooling. Like you want to see TCP dumps or LSOF or like netstat output or things that wouldn't like necessarily be logged. We also use it for things like patching software, restarting services, stuff like that. Because we wrap it in Jenkins, this gives us some like safeguards around like what's happening. We can see who's doing what and what the queue looks like. This, for example, lets us target a specific environment for us. We run off of an artifact, but we could do this for testing and run off a branch. We have to give it a team to run under. This corresponds to the certificate that we would use for authorization. We do things like the Choria filter, which is how you might filter and find your hosts. What's not being shown here is we append the environment that you're in as well as your team, so that we force like you're really only going to talk to these and that's it. I've said that this is peer reviewed. I actually like saying it. We use like Jira, it could be like whatever, but here I give a link to our ticket. Every change that we have has to go back to a ticket. So same when we make changes through Git, we have to reference some like ticket for it. In here, we would also have like peer review of who like signed off on it. I'm sure folks in other enterprise things do like similar stuff to that at least. We also have output. So for your automation, who should you like tell about it? We have Jenkins integrated with LDAP, which helps with like AAA. Choria itself has amazing AAA built in, but we needed to build this around it. And so with this, based on who you are logged into Jenkins, you can have different teams, and those are validated based on your like LDAP groups. And so that's how we set up authorization. Yep. Yeah, so this is what our LC looks like. So for example, so this is like highway data, right? We have some like admin credential that could do like whatever, but then for different teams, we say, you know, that team can only target systems that belong to them. And so this is how we keep well, we reduced the blast radius by ensuring a team can only screw up their systems, automate their systems, and not anything else. Besides this, we also have some like read-only certs that are allowed to access everybody, and we use those just for like gathering fact data and things like that.
You can write the authorization policy also in open policy agent.
So you can use OPA for this as well. Cool. So Jenkins, the accounting part of like AAA, Jenkins logs all the jobs. We have it create an artifact, and in the artifact, we have the orchestration that was ran, what parameters, like did you pass the job? So like everything you saw here is collected, all of the output, as well as all of the errors. This was like a bit difficult at first, and we were able to wrap that and have a standard like format. Now we have evidence that I can show an auditor that demonstrates we have a process and like stick to it. And so folks have probably seen like Jenkins before, but instead of like the team all SSHing in and doing like whatever they want, you can see like what people have done, what worked, what didn't, what's queued up. You see we also have an artifact here that has all that information in it. So that's versioned and immutable. Besides that, we also log all of the output to searchable index. So we've used things like Splunk and Google Cloud Logging, like whatever you use to like do like full text type searches, we can get it there as well. But because it's in the artifact, we can also use curl, pipe through JQ, right? And developers can quickly see like what's happening. This has been super helpful for us. This is what our architecture looks like. And so the client is the Jenkins runner. It talks to the brokers. We have all our hosts like speaking with the brokers. The thing that we added that isn't a normal part of the architecture is this idea of an API runner. And the API runner has the ability to talk with our cloud APIs. And so we need to interact with them for things like expanding disks, turning on systems, and so on. And we don't want every host to have like G-Cloud, AWS, like CLI, and more importantly, the credentials and ability to like run that from every host. So instead of entrusting the Jenkins like runners, we maintain these separate API runners, and then we route those things like through that. So Choria also uses MTLS for auth, and the certs you present by the local config for authorization to see what you're allowed to do. Choria also supports like JWT, but we use certs. Like many, we use Vault for managing certs. We added the very long-lived Puppet CA to Vault and can use that to generate short-lived certificates that interact with the Choria brokers. So if we go back here, we actually use a certificate that right now the TTL is like 7 days. We'll probably take that down to like 24 hours. And so every job gets a new certificate for that job. And then the interaction here is the normal long-lived Puppet CA certificate.
If you go to the JWT org, you can literally mint 1 minute length credentials, short as you want, use them once, toss them away, and you bake the entire policy of what that credential do into the JWT. Open policy agent, the work goes in there. And then you use it and throw it away when you're done with it. It's very nice for automating the kind of flow that you have.
And you're saying that's a part of?
The JWT org, yeah.
Ah, great. Yeah, James.
For those kind of credentials and so on, would it not be better to use something like Kerberos that was kind of built for this? Or is it a different use case that I'm perhaps misunderstanding?
That's a possibility, but Choria doesn't support
We've
like
had
Kerberos
Kerberos requests in the past.
But for passing certs around and stuff?
I've had requests for it in the past, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Kerberos.
As someone who administers systems, I'm very happy to not use
A lot of
Kerberos.
people are afraid of Kerberos.
Yeah. I'm not. I'll make it go. So we have our own control repo, so a separate repo just for orchestration. Besides fronting with Jenkins and handling certs like separately, we also maintain a separate repo. This means we have a very small Puppet file, and it's easy to maintain and onboard new people. Here's an example pipeline. We keep a Jenkins directory and have a .jenkins file for each piece of automation. So there's like a one-to-one map there. We have, We also have like parity between the inputs to the automation and the inputs to Jenkins. So if you were to go update your plan, you would also go update here, and these parameters would get like fed in. Yeah. To also make this work and aid in adoption amongst teams, you'll need a standard way of doing things. So how to get secrets, how to emit notifications, metrics, etc. And so the output artifact has a standard format. And so we have these types of tools. You'll probably need to write things like this that make sense for your environment. A lot of these bits existed, but we needed to make them the way that we're going to do things. So in closing, Puppet's not an orchestration tool. Stop using your laptop to manage hosts. And get started with Choria at choria.io. I hope the additional concepts of a job runner, short-lived certs, separate control repos, and API runners made sense. I'll be around Wednesday, or I probably will be as well. If folks are interested, come talk to us at the Hack Day, and we'll look at Choria with you. Any questions?
For brokers, are you doing just a single broker per sort of AZ, or do you have like federated brokers?
I'm not at a place where we need federated brokers, so we just have our brokers distributed amongst different AZs. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. It definitely scales to that and is made for that, though. Yeah. Like any other questions? Nope. Well, thanks everybody.